everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. What's happening, my paranormal junkies? I'm your host, Danny Whitson, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Guys, we are broadcasting live from the E-United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, in 105.3 FM on the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans. We have a fantastic show for you guys this evening. You're definitely going to tune in, and you want to get those questions warmed up. Today's guest, he's an accomplished award-winning filmmaker and cinematographer. In his feature-length documentary, The Hidden Hand, Alien Contact, and the Government Cover-Up, let's get a warm welcome for Mr. James Carman.
Hello, how are you doing?
Awesome, James. Well, you know what? I'm excited to have you here this evening. I can't wait to talk to you. But if you don't mind, you care to introduce yourself a little more in depth to the viewers?
Sure. Danny, it's great to be here. It's great to meet you. So I'm someone, I work as in film and photography. I work as a cinematographer, a director, and sometimes a producer. I'm in the Producers Guild, and I do a wide range of things. I work at the UN. I work in, let's call narrative film. You know, I've shot many narrative films. I directed a narrative film. It was a love story last fall, and that was a lot of fun. It was an Orthodox Jewish love story where it's a love story, but you can't touch. So then you have to kind of find out other ways to express love. And I've just finished a book called, it's a graphic novel. It's called HyperParanøid, an Ascension Story. And that's about a jail 150 years in the future where all thought leaders are being shoved into and kind of put when they want people to be out of circulation in society, they're put in this jail. And basically you only have 12 hours to live unless you can escape. And,
oh, wow.
And there's a kind of a hybrid AI human girl that tries to help these people, but usually no one ever listens to her. So it's a kind of, and because they're thought leaders, they think that they know all of the answers, right? And that like they dictate and everyone follows. But the problem is if you're five thought leaders together, then basically it's a fiery cauldron of egos. So
well,
yeah,
that almost sounds like a future documentary.
Exactly.
So it's well, let me do this real quick, because this is already very interesting, and I can already tell right off the bat, James, you are a super creative person, which those are my favorite type of people. And then plus you also apparently are a fan and a believer of, the paranormal, UFO phenomenon. What kind of got you into this? Because I mean, like you said, you do some work for the UN, but you also you're a creator. Is this something you've always been? Has this always been James?
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, because I've had contact since I was a child, even actually in utero. I have those memories, and when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm, and so I had this kind of very shamanic approach to interacting with animals and getting signs and omens from animals, and having it color your daily life. That was but my real memories didn't start coming back until I was like 39, and I did a healing, and then right after healing I did a hypnotherapy session, and it was just like a couple tons of bricks just like fell on me, and it was like all these memories started coming back.
Now, is this okay? Like after that, were you in the filmmaking process and the writing process then too, or did a lot of this kind of like kickstart what you're doing now?
No, I was always, I've been doing that.
But I mean, do you feel like maybe it enhanced it? Maybe possibly you're like,
no, I don't know if it enhanced it, but I did that documentary because I felt a real need to. I felt it was important that I kind of get that out in the world, and it did very well. It was on, I think, for 3 weeks, a top bestseller in Amazon, and for 3 weeks in Netflix, or in terms of top 10 in terms of documentaries. And yeah, I mean, that was a long time ago. That was like 12 or 13 years ago that I put it out. And I thought of making another one, but I didn't really feel that, like, I mean, now enough has changed, but I felt like I needed something concrete to kind of grab onto if I was going to start that again. And yeah, so I'm interested in the, I knew Ingo Swan. He was a friend of mine. I don't know if you know him. I'm a remote viewer, and so I do remote viewing. That's part of my daily life. And yeah, I mean, the paranormal is really the normal life, but it just depends on how open you are to kind of.
And I've always said, first of all, I mean, you do need to open your windows, and when your windows are open, you're able to see more things. And we use the term paranormal, but I think it's just more normal. I think it's it's a very real thing, and for some reason, science has not yet to figure out a way to measure it. And one of the issues whenever science can't figure out how to measure it, well, then it becomes hogwash, which is not true. It's just that, I mean, I think a lot of these things, they are very real. And it's just that we don't know exactly what they are. And just like, they talk about if, you were to take an iPhone back to the 1800s, it would appear like magic to them, and it's because they could not explain it. I think, paranormal, when people say spirits, we could be interacting with another dimension somehow, or, when time, the future, past and present all exist at the same time. And, who knows what's going on. So yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Absolutely. And the remote viewing, this is the thing, James, that I was before I started this podcast, hosting this podcast, I was very ignorant on remote viewing. I was also a little skeptical on it until I had talked to I've had some guests that I've spoken to, and I've looked into it myself, and I've even familiar with the government studies done with it. We have, our taxpayers have went to it, and it's real.
Right.
So is this something you teach people? Do you do any classes on this, or is
I'm actually going to start probably in the fall, but I haven't got a link or anything set up yet, but it'll be at Barbara Brennan's school.
Okay.
School of Healing. I don't know if you know Barbara Brennan. She was a very seminal learner, healer. She wrote this book called Hands of Light that's very famous. And so yeah, I was asked to teach there, and I'm going to.
Well, I think we do have a question right up here. Chris, let's get this question up here real quick. We've got our favorite. We haven't seen her in a little bit. Miss Liv Light. Let's get this question up here. James, where can we watch the Hidden Hand documentary?
There's a website. It's called hiddenhandthemovie.com. If you go to that, you can click on that, and you can you can rent it or buy it, and otherwise I still think it's on like Apple, still think it's on
so we could probably do
Amazon. It's still a lot of places that it shows.
So it's out there on streaming services.
Yeah.
We could still check out. Definitely the hit. I love watching these things. I love watching any type of documentary on this. And I love the fact whenever creative people do have something that moves them towards this field, because they have to tell their story. They have to get something out there. I'm also a firm believer, like how we were talking about the remote viewing. I think a lot of this stuff is all connected somehow on a conscious level too. So, let's do this, because this last thing that you were just talking about, it's something like it was a book you were writing. Oh man, we've got questions rolling in here. Hold on one second. Look, Robo Combs. Great site. I am 77 an experiencer in 1961. Will I live long enough to see disclosure?
Well, I think you're already seeing disclosure. I mean, come on. It's like, I was in Barcelona and I was interviewing Linda Moulton Howe and Christopher Mellon. Do you know Christopher Mellon?
Yes. Well, I don't know, but I know who Christopher Mellon is. Right.
And, we're talking, he with Hal Puthoff and Jim Semivan and Lou Elizondo, they're coming out and they're talking about this, and they're saying it's a real thing. I mean, Jim Semivan is like very high in the CIA, or he was, and he's talking about his own ET experiences or abduction experiences. So it's coming out, but it's coming out kind of as a narrative. There's one side of the story that's being pushed, but it is open, it is out there. And like when I made my film in I guess it was 2013 it came out, but I started way earlier. I started making a hybrid film that was half narrative and half documentary. And I had Al Bielek, I don't know if you know him. He was a good friend of mine. He acted in it. And the thing is people could not understand that there was a narrative part. They just thought the whole thing was documentary. So I had to scrap half of that film that I'd spent many years making, because I had to make it straightforward so everyone could understand.
It was. I'm going to say this as an entertainer, okay? Yeah. You really have to I'll tell a joke sometimes, and if it's going over here, I gotta bring it down a little. I'd say that's with any type of storytelling. And also 2013, it wasn't near as hot then as what it is now.
Yeah, I know.
And I agree. I agree with you, James. Robo, man, I think we are in the middle of disclosure right now. I tend to believe that it's a cat and mouse kind of game they're doing with us a little bit. It's almost like fly fishing a little bit, Robo. They're tossing the cast and reeling it back in a little, tossing it, because the best way to hide the truth is to roll it in a ball of BS. Right. And they tend to do that a lot. That they'll throw some evidence out there, then they throw some garbage out there, so it keeps you kind of like slowly letting us in. I do want to say quick shout out. We got Lisa over here too. Nice to see you, Lisa. Lisa, actually, we're going to be playing your show, the rerun of your show after this one. So absolutely love to see you here, Lisa. D, yes, demons, ghosts, aliens, UFO, and paranormal are all connected. I maybe very strong possibility that they are all connected.
I think it's connected. I mean, from what I know of ET, there is a very much a strong interdimensional aspect to it, and they use that, and that's one of the ways they manipulate us, because they can kind of come in and out very quickly, and they have whole, civilizations in other dimensions.
One of my biggest I was always. Okay, whenever I would criticize about another life coming from another planet, another galaxy, coming here to visit us, on the scientific thing about how difficult it actually is from an outside species to come to another planet. People don't realize not only do it has to breathe the same air we do, it has to, but you have to look at just gravitation, the gravity, the mass of this planet versus an outside, biologic coming here would crush them if they weren't the perfect size, perfect weight. So many things have to be perfect. So,
the other thing is that they live here. They've lived here forever, and it's like, where do they live? Either they live right here in that dimension, or they live underground, or they live in the ocean, or wherever. I mean, there's actually beings that actually live in the atmosphere. They're huge beings, and it's unfortunate that kind of all of our plasma technology and radiation is killing some of them off.
Well, and see, I find that interesting because that's where I tend to, because I always wonder. I was like, well, wait a minute. Now there's a possibility that human beings are not the top of the food chain on this planet like we thought we were. Have they always been here? Are they the real Earth? Is this really their planet and we're kind of the experiment? I mean, so there was a lot, and there's the interdimensional thing question up there. Speaking of question, Liv has got another question here for you. I want to get this out here real quick, James. It says, James, with your remote viewing experiences, have you personally had encounters with interdimensional beings?
I've had encounters with interdimensional beings, but not with remote viewing, because my remote viewing, I want it to be as grounded as possible. We don't use targets like that. I did do a remote viewing. It was, and I didn't know anything. I had no idea what it was, and I was given a target, and it was a Luamuma. You know that object that came.
Yeah.
And so I got that. And I talked about what was inside of it, and I was seeing that there was ETs inside of it. And so it wasn't just a rock it was actually a craft with a small colony in it. And the thing is I can interact with interdimensional beings every day. I don't have to remote view to that. But if you're remote viewing, you like to remote view things where you can see if you're correct, if you get a hit. It's, if I'm remote viewing multidimensional creatures, then I'm into my filters and what I believe and what I don't. And if it happens, then I'm open to it and I live that. But that's not what I want to do for my remote viewing per se.
That must have been really interesting, because I remember when that was going on, and they still don't know what it is. I mean, they've had people, physicists try to say, come up with something else other than it where we visited. But I mean, I'm like, this thing didn't operate like a random object just, floating in space. It came in and then took off,
right.
With, the speed, it was really odd the way. And then sometimes whenever you hear when they do look for explanations, why do we accept the reaching aspect? It's almost like they're reaching for an explanation, something they're having to stretch for an excuse other thing than it might been an alien, extraterrestrial. I'm like,
right.
It's you guys are using a theory of something that you think might possibly exist in the universe to explain this, and you don't even know if that exists, but you're wanting, it gets a little annoying in this day and age. Like I said, I think everybody should be skeptical about everything, but we have been kind of like taught that this is hogwash and not reality, but it's just as much reality as anything else.
Yeah. Charles Fort was the one who studied all these unexplained phenomena, and he basically came to the conclusion that we're owned. We're like cattle, and we're a resource. And he, after years of doggedly researching, and this was way back in the beginning of the 20th century, he, that's, and I think there's a viability to that.
And this is, and I know this is so hard to express, James, but the other day I literally, I did this, and I was looking out my kitchen window, just the backyard, beautiful, beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking and I'm like, what the heck is all this? I mean, do you ever seriously, you're just like, why do I exist? Why does any of this exist? What is going on? This is just nuts.
Right. Yes, and you shift in different states of awareness. I was. Do you know who Amachi is? Ama, the hugging saint?
No, I don't.
She's very well known. She travels all over the world. She hugs people, thousands of people every night. She was a very, very poor fisher girl. She wasn't allowed to go to school, not even elementary, because her brothers who were younger than her had to go to school because they were male, and she would give away all the food in their family's pantry to the poor people who were starving, and her father would beat her, because he said, you can't do that, and so she had this spiritual awakening, and as a woman who wasn't like a monk or a nun, or didn't grow up like in any kind of codified religion, she slowly gained the respect of people, and now it's just like she's got schools all over the world, hospitals all over the world. She's okay. Just she's considered a saint, and I've
somebody I should know.
I've had interaction with her, but the other night I saw her and she gave me a hug, and after that hug, and she always says a prayer in your ear, and then after that, I'm telling you, everything looks so much more vivid than it normally does. It was just great to be kind of shifted like that again. It was and
I think there's something when you get around those kind of people too. There's something that's contagious, and you can feel their aura, mm-hmm. and their love like that. So okay, well, let me ask you now: are any of your movies or books anything yet about remote viewing?
No, I'm thinking of writing one because there's one that I started it's called Secret Agent Sam, but I have a lot to go. But there's remote viewing in that, and
okay,
I've got so many written projects. But
I understand.
One after the other. Yeah.
I understand. It's called unfinished paintings, pictures, and stuff. But I totally get it. Well, actually, a great book that I just started reading is Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. Are you familiar with that one?
Who wrote it?
It is by John Allegro.
Okay. Is it talking about early Christianity and how that
absolutely the Samaritans and kind of how where civilization began? Very interesting stuff.
Right.
So I've just cracked that one open.
Well, it makes sense because the Dionysian cult, they used hallucinogenics and mushrooms for their I guess you would call them ceremonies. And then you have the Eleusinian mysteries that had to do with hallucinogenics, the Oracle of Delphi.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that had, it's not clear whether it was these kind of gases that would make people high. It was in a cave where they had these gases. They would affect the Oracle.
I always find that a little interesting. I do think you can enter that state without any outside aid. I think just by deep meditation. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think there's something very interesting with that as well. We do have another question here from RoboCombs. Oh, this is an interesting one. James, have you remote viewed your own death? Ugh.
Beyond the indigo, where the chilly winds will blow. My time is running low. Gonna go to see my good life giver. Better cover my yellow liver. Yes, I didn't remote view it, but I've seen it. I mean, I'm a clairvoyant, so I don't have to remote view it. I can tap into those things, and it shifts, but futures shift, and but But yes, I do have that.
See, I don't think I would want to do that.
Well, there's an old story. It's like in London, they were having a very proper dinner party, and everyone, one of the hostess, she says, well, what do you think about death? And they went around the table, and there was this crusty old admiral there, and he goes, well, when you die, you go to heaven and live in eternal bliss. But please, let's get off of this appalling subject and go back to wars and economics. You know?
That's hilarious. You know, I did just read today that they believe the oldest woman in the world, 117 years old, died in Spain. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, 117 years old, imagine how sick of everybody's crap she had to be. You know what I mean? 117. Jeez. I mean, every minute you wake up, you're like, is this it? Is it going to happen? I wouldn't want to live that long, though, definitely.
Well, if you read the Bible, we were meant to live longer.
Oh, yeah.
Our lives have been purposely shortened. Because you think about it, the longer you live, it's harder to pull tricks on you, and you can actually build something. You can't be controlled as easy. I'm reading a book right now. It's on a Indian yogi. He lived to be 138 years old.
Oh, gosh.
And he, up until he was 136, he was in perfect health. And then he started to get more feeble the last two days of his life. And then, but he died of pneumonia, but he was still very clear. And as his assistant came to him, and he looked at him and he said, live right and worship God. And then he died, and that was it.
And that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it should be simple, but for some reason we screw it up. So okay, and I've heard stories about these guys who can go in sub-deep meditation that they preserve. I can't even remember the story of the guy, but apparently they thought this monk had been meditating for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was the same guy. Was that the same guy?
No, I think you're talking about Babaji.
Yes. Man, I love the way James knows his names.
Babaji. There's no way to verify if that's true or not. So I don't put a lot of credence into it. I mean, it's also where you say the ascended masters, right? And it's like, I've never met the ascended masters. I've invited them to my basketball games and my drum circles, but they didn't show up, So
bummer.
I mean, I don't want to be. I'm not playing, but I don't want to be cynical. But I'm just saying, you don't need those beings of those. If you're connected, you're a part of divinity all the time. It's like, why would you need to have kind of substitutes for that?
Gotcha. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, I do want to look over here. Julie Evans, we see you. Thank you so much for popping in here, Julie. And like I said, Liv Light is here. Like, we're excited to have you back in here, Liv. And Robo, I do see your question, but I tell you what, we're going to cut to these announcements. Got to give a shout out to the sponsors for a minute, little commercial break. But when we come right back, we're going to get to your question, Robo. He's got a fantastic question lined up here, James. Guys, for you guys watching, hang tight. We'll be right back after these messages.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people imaginable, unexplained, or even unusual in paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, welcome back. If you guys are just now tuning in, we've been talking with filmmaker and cinematographer and author, experiencer, James Carman. James, well, let's do this. I want to get right into this question because we were talking, and Robo is cranking out some home runs right here for us this evening. James, was Jesus Christ a real person? Interesting.
Well, I think there's some different aspects to that. I mean, I've known people like who were powerful psychics or remote viewers that said they did go and visit and see his death. I personally think that Jesus exists in terms of the collective conscious. It's something that we've put so much energy into, and like the hopes and dreams and fears and all the suffering of humanity has been kind of projected into that mega concept that in a way it's very tangible and very alive. I think historically the figure of Jesus is a syncretic figure. That means back then there were a lot of different messiahs. There were people who claimed to be messiahs or what didn't even claim to be it. There were preachers and charismatic leaders. And so that played a part of it. If you know the history of Osiris and Isis and Horus, there's a very tangible relationship between Christianity and how it's formulated in the Egyptian religion. And if you know anything about the Mithric religion, it's the sun god who rises. It's very tangible connection to the ideas about Jesus, someone, the savior of the world. Even Krishna, like 1500 years before Jesus was born, there's stories about him being sacrificed on a cross to save humanity. So it's something that's been in the histories and in the collective consciousness for a long time. So I think it's not such an easy question to answer.
So, this is a theory that floats out there kind of based off the theme. A lot of people think that what if Jesus was an alien or an extraterrestrial or, some type of interdimensional? Well, I do personally think that Jesus, very well could have been an interdimensional being,
Well, there's another way to think about it. He could be a holographic insert. And so roughly every 200 years, there's a new age, it shifts, right? And if you look at the Anunnaki royal family, they are always fighting for control. And so, and then sometimes they don't want to relinquish control after 2200 years. They'll go steal another one or figure out a way to insinuate they're in for another term of that length. And some people suggest that maybe Marduk, that's what he was doing. And you look at Jesus, and the world did change at that time, right? I mean, the whole idea of if you look at the Greeks, it's just like, okay, let's kill our enemies, let's rape and pillage their women, let's subjugate these people in slaves and make them work for us. I mean, it's brought about a new idea into the world of
absolutely,
loving compassion and collaboration. I mean, it's not that wasn't there, but it brought it to the fore.
Yeah, it wasn't mainstream, and so. I'm a big fan of this. First of all, I do not belong to any particular religion. I don't disrespect anybody's religious beliefs whatsoever. But I am a fan of Jesus. I'm just going to say it right out. Everything Jesus said was pretty doggone cool in my book. And but I think Jesus is misunderstood a lot of time in most religions. And when we talk about a lot of this being connected consciously, I think Jesus was kind of trying to explain a little that more in depth about living forever. There's other ways, you can have eternal life through what he's trying to tell you. It doesn't. I think some people misinterpret that and take things a little more physically literally than what they should have been. That's just my opinion, but I do think you're absolutely correct. He introduced something completely new to the world. Well, it wasn't new, but it was mainstream. He made it mainstream. We do got a.
Well, I think one other thing. For me, the most important thing that he brought was the idea that we can have heaven on earth. We can experience heaven now, and that really fits very well with what many other religions are saying, like Buddhism or Hinduism is, and that's something they actively strive for. And they strive for it not only in works, doing good works, but the right frame of mind, and also teaching yourself how to open up and expand your consciousness even more.
Absolutely. Okay, we got a question that's popped up here, and Robo's like, hey, you know what I want to do? Let's talk politics and religion. So here we go. All right. We got a big one here for you. He goes, James, when is the upcoming presidential election?
I can't say I know.
Goodness. Drum roll.
I can't say I know. I have the feeling that there's going to be an interruption of some kind. I feel like it's not going to be, we're just going to November and we'll pick. I don't know. I just feel like there might be some kind of interruption again.
Well, there's definitely something weird feeling. I mean, of course, we all know with the assassination attempt, it was weird. And, especially whenever you're part of this world, you can't help to be a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. You don't trust everything that you see. And you're like, well, that's kind of odd. What is going on here? I don't know. We do got a question by Live Light that's popped up. James, do you believe we are in the age of Aquarius? Is there a higher vibrational Earth dawning? Are we ascending?
Well, it takes a couple hundred years to transform into the age of Aquarius. We are getting there, but we're still kind of in that transformational. Do you know what psionics is?
Enlighten me.
Like if you have like a drum, and then you have a bunch of metal filings on it, and if you were to play an E note, then they'll form a pattern, a geometrical pattern, and then if you go, it'll change to another pattern, and you can think of these ages like the yugas are like around 10,000 years. That's 4 stages of 4 epochs that kind of go psychically in terms of if we are to where we are in as a solar system in relation to the center of the galaxy. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not only we're spinning this way, sometimes we're going up like this. And, it's all these cycles within cycles. So I feel like we're just getting into the age of Aquarius. And I think you can tell that just by the technology that's going on. The internet is Aquarian. It's all this connectivity. And, it has its good side and its bad side. The whole thing of egalitarianism, socialism, all that kind of stuff, it's very Aquarian, but it's kind of has negative sides too. Like if you've read Animal Farm, that all animals are created equal. Like all men are created, but some are more equal than others, right? And they're the ones who are running the internet, so that's kind of what I think about that. And was there another part of that question?
Let's see. She did have a few. Let's see if we can. Hey, Chris, can you pop that back up there?
Oh, are we ascending? I think, if you look at the whole idea of ascension, I think that's a PSYOP program in one regard, because instead of escaping and saying, okay, our space brothers, angels, Jesus is going to come and help us, and then we're going to ascend, and we have to do that here. That's what Jesus was talking about. He was talking about making heaven on earth real. And to do that, we have to change ourselves, take responsibility for ourselves, not always expecting someone else to do it for us. And the future is always splitting off. And so if you are doing that, then you are ascending not ascending, but you're living into a different timeline. And that timeline is going to be the one where you have ascended, metaphorically, because the quality of life has gotten so much better.
And see, I totally see where you're coming from with that. I think, it's, we talked about earlier, having your windows open, you're able to see a little more, but you do have to open up to these things. And I also think it takes stages in life. One day when you buckle down and you realize how freaking hard this ride is, it's definitely worth to crack, open your doors and windows and, be willing to look at some different perspectives and point of views. Would you agree?
I do agree. But the thing is like, and this has definitely been true for me, how freaking hard this life is. It is true, but that is a belief we have, right? I think we can shift ourselves into one of a life of ease and fulfillment. I think we can shift that make those shifts. And if because I've met people like that, and So I think, we don't have to say this is the way things are. We can say this is the way things are now, but we are progressing. We're expanding. We're learning enough to live in a better way.
So, okay, what's your opinion on this? And I mean, I know you can, you may not be able to say everything that you think about this, but, you did mention kind of like a government cover-up kind of situation, and now that we're kind of, they're letting the cat out of the bag a little more. What makes you think that why have they started doing so more just here in the past, just the past 6-7 years?
I think there's a couple reasons. One is, I think ETs are coming back in a real sense that they're going to be like among us, more like in the back they could be walking around, but it's going to be their cyborgs walking around, but more like back in the olden days where they had the ziggurats, those step pyramids, and they would live up on the top, and then we would kind of the people who were allowed would bring them the food for them to eat, and I think something like that is going to come in. So that's why you're seeing so much pressure to change now, is because they want to mold society and they don't like where we are. This whole kind of blip of the last 70 years of free love in the 60s, that doesn't mesh with what they're into. They want, like, we set the rules, everyone follows kind of thing.
Well, I tell you what, I love this question right here by Jay. Okay. Because I'll be honest with you, man, he got my attention when I first learned about Bob Lazar. What is your opinion about Bob Lazar? Great question, Jay.
Well, I can't say for sure. I think he's I believe his story, he also was working for the government and had government contracts afterwards. So, I think the whole thing about this bringing out stories about this it's a long-term project, because if you want to move the whole society to where you're comfortable with ETs or with what the new program is, that's a multi-generational thing. Think of where we come from, Roswell, to where we are now. There's no way people are going to accept that in the 40s. Now, almost everyone would accept it because it's been permeated in our society to such an extent that, they'll just go along with whatever they're told more. And so I feel that the other thing is people aren't really looking at is the advent of AI and the advent of genetic engineering. Our race is being changed now. We're going to be changed where we're interfaced with AI and interfaced with, we're going to be engineered to be a space pilot or to be a soldier or to be whatever. And so the whole thing of like the gender fluidity, it's a part of this. It's kind of like expanding the universe. So you don't have a binary universe anymore. It's a multipolar universe in terms of what humans are or can be. And that's partly how they're designed. And so this is where we're moving, but you can't just move people there. You can't turn a switch. You have to move them there through generations.
That's true. That's interesting. I didn't even think about that, what you said there. It does kind of seem like that's where it's heading, in that direction. Absolutely. Well, the thing back with Bob is I remember when I first heard his story, and then he later, I remember hearing a little bit about it, and I was like, I wasn't as far into this. But then when Bob came back out on some very popular podcasts and told his story, I listened to the guy, and he did not sound like a liar to me. A lot of reasons I was like, why would this guy lie about this? Why would he lie about that? Why would he put his life through all this drama to make up the story? And I mean, there's things that he even said, like when he worked on the spacecraft to help reverse engineer it, he was assigned a certain area of the spacecraft. And when people would ask, well, what was up here? What was down there? He said, I can only kind of assume what was on this other part of the spacecraft because they didn't allow me to look. A liar doesn't do that. A liar, a liar is going to have the best story you've ever heard,
Right. No, I wasn't saying he's like, I believe his story. So yet in that kind of compartmentalization to the extreme, that's what they do to kind of protect the knowledge. I'm just saying that his story could be part of changing the narrative, so prepping humanity to be ready for ETs, and also to get beyond the oil phase of our civilization and to get into anti-gravitics and all that stuff, right? It's like, if tomorrow, if they said, we developed anti-gravitics and Tesla's going to have anti-gravity cars in 2 years, people might think like, what? But I mean, it wouldn't take long for the shift to click in.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And I think, as we're introduced to new things, we almost have to be, just like you said, generational slowly. And that's probably what's happening right here before our eyes. Every generation that comes before the first one and the after, we think we're wiser than the ones before us, and we think we're wiser than the ones coming after us. That's just how we all do. But I think in this situation, like the generation behind me, I'm Gen X, and I look at Gen Zs, and it's a different world already for them. They've experienced things that I can't even imagine. So it's going to be interesting what the future looks like. I joke and say that it's depressing, but hopefully it will not be. But I do want to get into this real quick, James, because we have flown. Really, this episode has flown by, and there's so much we could probably talk to you about another hour with everything that you do. But I do want to do this real quick because we got some people over here that may want to learn more about you, James. Wait a minute. We got one last question. Let's get one last question here by our very own Live Light. James, with all your experiences with other dimensions, remote viewing, meeting so many spiritual souls, what is the overall message for humanity? How do we create heaven on earth?
Well, I think there's a couple ways. One, I think the one you do every day is that your interpersonal relationships, they matter. And those are the most important things you have in your life. And you have to treat people with the utmost love and respect. And if you can't do that, then just step back and see if you can rearrange it again. Because to live in conflict with the people you're closest to and most intimate with, that's a sin. If you can't change it, you have to do whatever you can to change it. And the other thing is to take responsibility for yourself, and not like say, oh, he did this to me, this happened, blah, 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 blah. Even it's me, someone who's had like a lot of really heavy stuff happen. It's, I don't focus on that. And I meditate every day. I pray, I eat well, I exercise, I do whatever I can to make this journey better, because what else is there? It's like this, the most beautiful gift we could ever have is just to be alive here every day, every second. It's incredible. And if you forget how fantastic that is, that you can even be alive and looking and running out, that's pretty amazing. So Bob Marley said it. He said, if you get down in your gutter every day, you're saying prayers to the devil, I say. You got to live in that positive way.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. I tell you what, James, where can the viewers learn more about you? We could check out the Hidden Hand. You said it's streaming on streaming service. If we just do a search on that, we could check out
hiddenhandthemovie.com. Then I get the money. But you do it wherever you want. I just made this book. It's called is it upside down?
No, you're good.
Okay, so it's called HyperParanøid, an Ascension Story. And here it talks about ascension, but it talks about it in a little bit of a different way, because the ascension comes from the people within themselves, because they work on themselves, and they collaborate with people and they trust people. But it's a lot of hard work to get to where you can trust and collaborate with a group of people. But that's the key. The key is not thinking, oh, someone's going to do it for you. You find a way to make it happen. And how do you make it happen? Is like you create your own thing. You create your own yes in the world where there's always only no's around. You can't do this. Blah, blah, blah. You create a yes with your loved ones. And so that's my book. Look at HyperParanøid.com. You can find it there. You can buy it there, or you can buy it on Amazon. And
on Amazon. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, Amazon. They're at HyperParanøid and Ascension Story. James Carman. You have it on Amazon, and then also I have a paper book, the paperback version of it on Amazon too. So right now it's not connected, so you have to look for one or the other. And
you said the best place to watch the movie is, you said,
hiddenhandthemovie.com.
Gotcha. Hiddenhandthemovie.com. James, thank you so much for coming on. We got to get you back on to cover more stuff because there's just too much stuff about you, brother. But you have been a fantastic guest. Guys, thank you so much for your awesome questions. Julie, I see you. Liv, thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I tell you what, guys, if you have not done so, head over to Patreon, show us some love at Heed the World, make a little donation that gives you access to the experiencersupport.org, to some very interesting articles on the UFO topic and the phenomenon. A lot of cool stuff going on there by our guy, Ryan Stacy. Sorry. And check it out. It's definitely worth it. If you guys have not done so, be sure to like and subscribe to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Tell your friends about us. We got a lot of cool guests coming on in the future. And like I said, we love getting these questions on here to talk to our guests. If you guys have not done so, you want to learn more about me? Yes, Danny Whitson. Guys, you can head over to Facebook and give my page a like at Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy, or on Instagram at Super Magic Boy. I travel around. I do my shows. That's right. And I even talk about this podcast in my show. So if you'd like to come see a show, check it out where I'm going to be at DannyWhitsonMagic.com, or Danny Whitson Magic and Comedy on Facebook, or Danny Whitson at Super Magic Boy on Instagram. I would love to see some of you guys come out to a show. I really would. I would really love to see you guys check it out. Also, if you have not done so, on Mondays at 5 p.m., we have Ryan Stacy's podcast called The Skeptical Sleuth, okay? And what it is, it's a podcast where Ryan takes cases, he takes, topics about the paranormal, he breaks them down and really gets to the juices for you. So check that out on Mondays. Guys, you guys have been fantastic. I'll see you next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Does it for this episode of Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. A big shout out for tonight's awesome guest, and a bigger shout out for everyone who tuned in. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to your podcasts. And like always, be sure to stay curious.